Monday. Has everybody been able to get to the agenda so far? Again, a couple pieces of paper on your table that show you, and up here, just make sure you know that is a capital O Bitleys. You always have to do case sensitive. While everybody's getting there, we'll really quickly review our norms.
Norm.
Thank you. Norms. One of these times, can I please start with a video of just him walking in and then saying norm a bunch of times so people get it? Okay. We're going to come prepared on time with a fully charged device and a pencil. Everybody got a device today? Yeah. Thank you. Get it. Be an open-minded inquirer. Be a positive, willing, reflective learner. And ensure equity of voice and time during our learning together. All right? We're going to go ahead and dive right in because we've got some good stuff today. Our CLT. Who would be willing to read our CLT for us that's not taking a bite? Ms. McLean.
I can use questioning strategies to ensure student accountability and equity of voice.
Excellent. So we want you to leave with some questioning strategies. Why? So that you can ensure student accountability and equity of voice. Okay? One little new thing today, we've got a note catcher. Instead of having you write all these things on random Post-its and those kind of going all over the place, we're creating a place for you to document your thoughts on one thing. If you're comfortable doing it digitally, if you'll click on that, I'm hoping, there we go, that it's going to force you to make a copy of it, and that way you're going to be able to fill it out as you go. Okay? All right, so that is your note catcher for today. For those of you, though, who are more comfortable with paper, it is all good, and that's why we made copies for you. So who would rather have a paper copy? We just didn't want to give them to everybody and then be in the recycle bin, right? But for those of you who like a paper copy, we're happy to give you one. Anybody else want one just in case? All right, they're here in case you decide otherwise. All right, we ready to get started?
Yeah. All right, so we're going to take a look at a piece of art. This is a nice little strategy that I've taken from a teacher years ago. And we want to take a look at this picture we have on the screen. And on your note catcher sheet, I want you to find the box that has the room for you to write your art questions. And I want you in the next 60 seconds or so, write down as many questions as you can think of when you look at this picture. What are questions that come to mind when you take a look at this picture? All right, so you should hopefully have a list of questions, hopefully some really interesting ones based off of this picture. And now we're going to go back and we're going to talk about, where are we here? Webb's depth of knowledge. And when we talk about questioning, and you all are certainly aware with your benchmark data, you see that yours are divided into depth of knowledge levels 1, 2, and 3. There's actually 4 levels of the depth of knowledge model according to Webb's breakdown there. And we have different levels of questioning from depth of knowledge 1, which is recall and production, depth of knowledge 2, which is basic skills and applications, depth of knowledge 3, which is strategic thinking, and then depth of knowledge 4, which is extended thinking. And so I wanted you to take a look at your questions right now and just briefly reflect on the types of questions that you wrote. But really what I want you to do is, I want you to take your questions and I want you to trade them with someone sitting next to you, and then you have a box that says DOK level. I want that person to rate each one of your questions. Is it a DOK 1, 2, 3, or 4? So trade your questions with somebody and have them rate each one of your questions as a DOK level 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Sorry, I didn't have any time to write any questions.
So if we take a look back at the picture, and I hear you all saying, "Oh, we have a lot of DOK 1," or "I did this wrong." There's no wrong way to do it. You know, you can start out with some really basic questions. And the activity that I saw actually was from a French teacher where she used it for vocabulary, where she could pull up a lot of different levels where she said, "Tell me about this picture," right? And it could be something like, well, he's wearing a black hat. That's very like low level, all the way to, you know, they look sad, right? Or it's interesting that they look sad because they're in such a romantic location, right? And so there was all these different levels of vocabulary she could pull from the students. So what are some examples of questions that we had for this picture?
Is he protecting her? Is he protecting her?
Is he protecting her? Good.
Is there significance to the direction that people are facing?
Is there a significance to the direction that people are facing? What depth of knowledge level would that be? That sort of question. Is there a significance into the...
Where's that depth of knowledge sheet? What is it called? Is it just the DOK?
DOK. Yeah. So what depth of knowledge would that be for At least a 3, could be a 4, right, as we're starting to analyze more information about that. And English teachers, notice how you can use this activity too to extract text evidence. Even as a simple DOK1, where are they? Right? You can even pull text evidence out of there. How do you know that they are in Paris? Right? Well, because the Eiffel Tower is in the background, and using this way to not only think about your levels of questioning, but how you can always have students pull in responses with text evidence no matter what level of question you're working. All right.
All right, thank you, Mr. Carson. Okay, so next up, y'all know I like cartoons. There's a link to the image there, to the cartoon, and you need your web COK as well open. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes of private think time, and I want you to think of a DOK level 3-4 question that could go with this cartoon. So 2 minutes private think time. Think of a DOK level 3-4 question, and go ahead and type that into your note catcher or write it on your. All right, thank you so much for sharing with a partner. Now we're going to share a whole group, but as we go around the table, I want you to share your partner's question. What did your partner come up with? Ms. Clark, would you like to start?
Based on the cartoon, write an argumentative writing prompt that matches the topic being shared.
Okay, great. Ms. McLean?
What visual or verbal elements indicate the artist's message in this cartoon?
Nice, thank you. Ms. Robertson?
What argument could you write to persuade your audience of the man's caption, "We're doomed"?
I like it. Amanda?
What argument is the writer making and what details in the image support the claim? What claim can you write that is similar to the photo?
Nice. Mr. Gomez?
Why do the Twinkie people seem more passionate?
Yeah. Good question.
Look at the waistline.
Are personal priorities comparable?
What connection can you make between the cartoon image and society today?
And what is your opinion about the cartoonist's perspective on American society?
Can I read yours? We just shared.
I got two.
Okay. What could you argue about this image after viewing this image?
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Lloyd, back to you.
Nice. All right. So the next thing we're going to be looking at is the 4-step questioning protocol. Whether you realize it or not, you just participated in the 4-step questioning protocol. A lot of us are familiar with this idea, but I do also know that as a busy teacher, especially in our 45-minute days, we're a lot of times trying to get through so much that we sometimes neglect this protocol. So we just want to remind everybody about it and talk a little bit about its value and why we think it is a great investment in the amount of time you'll spend on it in class. So again, 4-step questioning protocol, you're going to see a spot on your note catcher where it's got empty boxes. The digital one has the boxes below it, just because I couldn't get my formatting right, but your paper copy, obviously there's room there. If you would write in the steps as we go through, and of course in your own words is totally fine, as we go through our 4-step questioning protocol, the first step is to ask a question or propose a prompt, right? We know that sometimes it's in the form of a question, and sometimes it's more of a statement of inquiry, right? So first step always is pose our question or prompt. Simple enough. Second step, we provide and preserve private think time. You don't have to call it private think time, right? Individual time, take a minute to think, whatever you want to call it. But the whole idea is you have to give students time to think, all right? You also have to preserve that private think time. I know one of the things I was most guilty of and still am is I'll pose a question and be thinking I'm giving them private think time, but then I'll be walking around like, yeah, and remember this. Oh, and you can also do this and make sure you're thinking about this, right? They can't be processing my question as they're processing all this new information I'm throwing at them. So again, minimizing the interruptions as you're giving them the private think time, making sure everybody stays quiet. Yeah, you two might have finished your question, but the people around you haven't. And the minute you start to talk, throws other people's thinking off. So please, for everybody, preserve that private think time. The third step is share thinking with partners in small groups. This is a step that we often skip over, again, I think because of time, right? But if we provide our students that time to share their thinking, either with a partner, with a small group, we're ensuring every single student's voice is heard on that question, right? We all know it's impossible to have every single 35 kids answer, right, every time. But when we use a strategy like this, when we use a protocol like this, every single student is getting time to be able to voice their opinions and thoughts, all right? So we always want to take that step before we then share ideas with the whole class, right? So again, we're posing a question or prompt, we're providing and preserving that time to think, we're first sharing our thinking with our partners or in small groups, and then we're sharing those ideas with the class as a whole. So again, that's the step, those are the steps we just went through. Okay? Now, I'd like to give you 30 seconds.
Sorry.
It's okay. I'd like to give you, and I don't want you to see these because those are the last groups, I'll put those up there in a minute. I would like to give you 30 seconds, and I would like for you to think about what could some of the benefits be of making sure you go through this 4-step questioning process as opposed to calling on individual volunteers. We know we still need to do that sometimes, but what could some of the benefits be of making sure we use this protocol? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and call time on you. I love that you still are discussing this. Okay, so let's see, Mr. Goza, share what your partner said might be some of the benefits.
Clear up confusion, allow for students to be exposed to different levels of thinking before the whole group shares, and validating thinking in a safer environment.
Don't look at my typing. Validating.
Validate thinking in safer environment. Get validation in safer environment.
Okay. Shayna, tell us what your partner said.
He said very, very similar things, but one that stood out to me was student thinking is more parallel than with teacher thinking. Then trying out ideas in a safer environment, multiple perspectives.
All right, Miss Roundy, tell us what your partner said.
She said that students can become deer in headlights, which is not beneficial to any learning environment. Students can think through the question, their thoughts together and organized.
Awesome. Grits?
Yeah, we were just talking about students can reflect, be thoughtful, clear up misconceptions, and get perspectives on topics.
Good. All right, anybody else have something that you want to, other good ideas? Yeah, Miss McLean, or Mr.
share.
Hunsucker, yeah.
It says sharing with others allows the social communication component within approaches to learning.
I would just add that during the when they're sharing their thinking with the partners, if the teacher's walking around the room during that time, you can quickly gauge where everybody is.
Absolutely, it's a great formative assessment.
If you just listen and don't really slow down and start trying to talk to some of the groups.
Absolutely. And again, as a teacher, I can't listen to every single 35 people at one time answering my question, right? But I can go around and have a really good gauge of, oh, they're getting it. Oh, we're not getting it. You know what I mean? Again, I can walk around and hear common misunderstandings everybody's had that I can then address, right? Okay, good. I'm going to just pop up here really quickly, if I can. Yep, some of the others that the group before y'all thought about too. Same kind of ideas, giving time for students to develop their opinions, needing time to think through. Students can correct their own misunderstandings before they have to share out. Slower processors have that time to think. One of the pieces of research I read preparing for this was, number one, we ask way too many insignificant questions. Where's your pencil? Have you done this? When we really mean get out your pencil. So one of the things was talking about, in order to help our students be able to process important questions, get rid of the questions that you're really trying to make a statement, right? So in some cases, we're asking too many insignificant questions. We want to make sure we're saving that questioning for times it really matters. All right?
Alright, thank you, Ms.
Thank
Malloy.
you.
Okay, so we go back to our agenda today, so we're gonna talk about IB questioning, how it matches up with DOK. So you have a link to this document in your folder. There's also hard copies here if you prefer to look at a hard copy. And I'm gonna give you about 30 seconds of private think time. I want you to go back to the questions that you've written today. And I want you to decide which question type they would be. So in your note catcher, go ahead and label the questions you've already written today as factual, conceptual, or debatable. All right, just real quick, anybody come up with a factual, an example of factual from a question you wrote earlier?
Where are they?
Okay. Maybe where are they? All right.
What is the time period?
What is the time period? Okay. What about conceptual? Anybody come up with a conceptual?
Well, you could say, if you ask for, how do you know what the time period is? That would, to me, would seem more conceptual because they're having to use context clues.
Sure.
Fedora.
Absolutely,
Right.
yeah. Debatable? Anybody have a debatable? Sam? I'll take your hand with that, sorry.
Oh, it was the personal priorities comparable, and I was going back to the Twinkies. Sorry.
What was that one?
Oh.
Let me see.
Yeah, can we say it?
Okay. Did anybody see similarities in the wording between DOK, Webb's DOK, and the questioning types? Yes, no? Okay, so IB actually used both Bloom's and Webb's to create their question types here. So that's what you keep in mind as you learn more about high leverage questioning strategies, that building inquiry into your units is now becoming even more important, even from the county. In the curriculum maps you receive, the pacing guides, you'll see more of that. And it's always been an integral part of the IB unit. Thank you.
Woo. All right. Really quickly, this isn't going to take long at all. More resources. Hey, look right down there. More resources. We really tried to make sure we gave you a variety of articles, different kinds of resources. We've got some YouTube videos in there. Obviously, this isn't an exhaustive list of all the great resources, but if you wanted to learn more instead of just going to Google, you can start here. This is at least a curated list for you to learn more about questioning, some great strategies, some great ideas. So more resources for you right there. All right? Ready for
Right, and as we
exit
go
strategy?
back to look at our CLT for the day, right, I can use questioning strategies to ensure student accountability and equity of voice. I think we've discussed a lot of those things if we think about the questioning protocol, if we think about how we use factual, conceptual, debatable questions, or DOK's levels of questioning. So what I want you to do now is you should all have a card on your desk, and I want you to get ready to write on that card. And what you're answering is this. I want you to reflect on your learning today, and I want you to create a goal for tomorrow based on what you learned today. Okay? Create a goal for tomorrow based on what you learned today and write it on your card.
All good.
And once you've completed writing your goal, I would ask you to quietly stand. This is a very thoughtfully curated playlist about questioning.
I spent way too much time looking for songs that had questions in it.
So you should have your goal in hand, and what I would ask you to do is If your birth date is odd, you're gonna walk clockwise around the table. If your birth date is even, you're gonna walk counterclockwise on the table until the music stops.
Okay.
Ooh. All right,
Date.
clockwise. It don't matter. Odd is
Finger
done which
behind the
way?
clock.
Just tell me which way's even.
Odd is clockwise, even is counterclockwise.
What?
Just walk.
This way.
Now what? We'll stop the music in a minute. I've got to
All right, stop and find someone near you and discuss your goal with them.
Look at that, right?
Here, I'll
All right, once you have discussed that, you should come back to your seat and you have an envelope, or you're going to be getting an envelope. And here's one for you, Beth. And I want you to take your goal and I want you to put it inside the envelope. This is for you and Sarah. So take your goal card and put it inside the envelope and write your last name on the outside of the envelope, please, and that will be your exit ticket. Okay, so you should have an envelope, put your goal card inside, write your last name on the outside, please, and you will leave that with us as your exit ticket.
You already won the prize. Cher's like,
Thank you all so much.
over here. Oh, it's all good. It's all good.
It's all right, we kept on going.
Y'all take a snack. Thank you so much for your spending your Monday morning with us. We appreciate you.